like you said, after the big Vegas party, and then you sit there and he says, I was held captive by Qaeda for 6 years, and you sit there, oh my gosh.
Yeah, what have I been up to, right?
Now we can get to the point about AI being slapped on every
backdrop in existence, right? AI is really powerful and it can do a lot. I think what I'm seeing personally is a lot of people are being told they need AI without having a clear problem to solve with AI.
What was that kind of aha moment that made them realize that VXT is different to desk phones or different to Microsoft Teams?
It was 100% the integrations with our partners.
So welcome to another episode of File Notes Podcast, a bit of a bonus episode that we have here because we attended ALPMA Legal Conference in Brisbane last week. So I am joined with our Chief Revenue Officer at VXT, William Burry, to have a little bit of a chat with me about how it all went and what our observations were. So welcome, William.
Excited to be here, Sophie. Thanks for having me along. Glad I finally made it to the File Notes Podcast.
Yeah, it had to be sometime. So to kick us off, we just want to give our quick observations about ALPMA. And I wanted to start that off with the best booth gimmick. So it leads to the question of what do these companies or sponsors that are at these conferences have to do to actually get people to come and talk to them at their stall? What was your favorite gimmick?
Personal favorite had to be the masseuse. I made at least several trips there. It was a long 3 days, so it was fantastic to get like a head and shoulder massage. I watched you get your cartoon drawn though. How was that? Who was doing that?
I did Dye and Durham. They had a massive booth. They were owning the floor with their new practice management system launching. And I did get my cartoon drawn. It was one of those moments when you're sitting there and you're really afraid for them to turn it around because it's those cartoons where they can make you look really fat and have big chins. And I was pleasantly surprised.
Got off easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what else was there? There was a hair salon. I got my hair curled.
Yeah. You're good on my times, right? Getting everyone dolled up for the Vegas event.
Yeah, the Vegas event. So that was sponsored by Actionstep and First AML. That was super cool. It was there was poker you could do. William won all the money.
Won a lot of money on blackjack.
Nice. Okay, so now best merch. It's another way that sponsors lure people into their booths to come chat to them. What was your favorite, William?
Hands down, had to go to Payrix. They had Frank Green water bottles. Thank you so much for the free water bottle. It was incredible. But I can't go ahead without shouting out the Moda sparkling water. It was the perfect complement to the free water bottle, right? And especially after the Vegas event, it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was quite cool. You see all these conferences doing efforts to be more sustainable, but the water was a tap where you can go refill these glass bottles, which I think was a really cool initiative. ALPMA also offered you to plant a tree somewhere on the app that you used during the conference. So that was super cool to see. And I can't help but not shout out VXT's bags that everyone wanted to come see and get to collect their things. Going back to ALPMA making that step to be more sustainable, these conferences aren't giving out bags anymore. So we swoop in with our more permanent tote bags that everybody loves. What do they say on it? They say,
I'm billing you for this conversation, I think.
Yeah, great.
We saw a lot of people dash from across the room laughing about it. It's a true hit.
And the last quick fire observation was best speaker.
Hands down had to be the keynote speaker, Stephen McGowan, with his incredible story about being held captive by Qaeda for close to 6 years, which was an incredible story about resilience and overcoming a lot of challenges in the Sahara Desert, which at 9:30 in the morning after a night at a conference party was a great way to wake up.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy who these conferences are getting to be the keynote speakers. Obviously, there's all the legal speakers, but then they have the keynote speakers, which are attracting people to the conference and changing it up a little bit and always having that leadership twist. But we sat down not really knowing what session we went to. Then, like you said, after the big Vegas party, and then you sit there and he says, I was held captive by Qaeda for 6 years, and you sit there, oh my gosh.
What have I been up to, right?
Yeah, not that.
Thankfully.
Yeah. So that was our observations of ALPMA, the kind of fun, high-level side of that. Why was VXT there? Can you give the one sentence line of what VXT is for anyone who actually doesn't know?
Yeah, VXT is communication software built for lawyers to automate work they don't want to do.
Nice. So we were there talking to a bunch of lawyers. What kind of phone systems were you seeing law firms already using before they spoke to us about VXT?
It was super interesting. There was definitely a lot of range. A couple ones really stood out, which what I consider like traditional desk phones. So you can imagine the old school black phone on your desk. That was a big prevalent one, as well as Teams for calling. There's a lot of kind of law firms using that and exploring alternative options.
When we spoke to people using desk phones, what were the kind of issues they were facing? Obviously, the big one is remote work now for those firms that allow it.
Yeah, that was definitely the major one. I remember actually spoke to a lady who mentioned the team was physically unplugging the desk phones from the office, putting them in the car, lugging them inside and plugging them back in, which joked about that in the past, but I really didn't think anyone was still doing that post-COVID especially. So that was really cool introducing her to VXT and how our software works. But another big one would have been the ease of use and the reliability was a huge priority for firms. So a lot of people looking at ways to only simplify their tech stack, but also ensure that they're having the best possible communications with their clients.
And on the desk phone point, can sometimes be a hard thing getting firms getting their lawyers to decide to leave desk phones. What were the vibes there at the conference? Do you think firms are ready to make that move, or are some still too scared to do it or very against it?
Yeah, I think the firms that have already made the jump to some form of soft phone or internet-based calling are really open at looking at alternatives and innovating. There still are firms who are holding on to the desk phones for dear life. I think those firms, a lot of them are becoming ready to make the change. AI is now becoming a big part of the kind of working world, and desk phones are increasingly holding the firms behind from like a data collection perspective.
For sure. And I was speaking to someone who had gone from desk phones. They just forced their staff to do it. They were
Yeah,
against it, but they just made them do it. And once they made their staff do it, they were saying, "Oh my gosh, I have my hands free. I can use
yeah,
both my hands now because I'm wearing a headset." And
yeah.
so sometimes we might just have to force people to eventually.
Yeah. Once the computer starts ringing, it's pretty hard to go back to the desk phone.
Yeah, cut the cord. So those are some of the other phone systems that people are currently on. When we introduced them to VXT as a phone system built specifically for lawyers, what was that kind of aha moment that made
Hmm.
them realize that VXT is different to desk phones or different to Microsoft Teams?
It was 100% the integrations with our partners. Seeing the amount of time that can be saved, capturing billable hours, taking file notes using VXT was amazing, and it was so cool introducing that to lawyers who'd never heard or of integrated calling before.
And when you said partners before, we're referring to all of the practice management systems like Clio, Actionstep, Smokeball, Leap, and VXT's integration is very specific for lawyers so they can sync their contacts, transcribe their calls, and save that all automatically. On the integration front with all of our partners, there are a bunch of practice management systems there. Should we talk about what we heard lawyers saying about where they're at with their practice management system? A lot of kind of at that point where they have to move practice management systems because they're on legacy systems or
Yeah.
they are ready to shake things up. What were you seeing in that space?
Yeah, I think across the board, a lot of people were like curious what's out in the market. I spoke to a lot of lawyers who were relatively happy where they were, that they're still keeping that kind of the finger on the pulse to see who's innovating, who's developing, who's providing more value in a single platform, or who's implementing AI the best. There was a lot of like general interest. We were sat next to the Smokeball team. They're in the booth next to us, and it was really cool. It seems like a lot of smaller firms were really interested in Smokeball. From what I understand, it's an incredibly easy to use piece of software, so really appealing for those on the slightly small side. A lot of New Zealand firms over from the ditch like us, a lot of people using One Law, super excited about a potential API there. Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah, for
What
sure.
did you see?
Clio, I saw, obviously a massive player, the biggest player in North America. They just did a massive $900 million raise recently, which is super excited to see where that's going to go. I don't think they had any AI features out yet, so I assume a lot of that is going, well, I'm assuming it's going to be launched soon, because what practice management system isn't launching some form of AI, which
Yeah.
we will talk about soon. But yeah, definitely Clio. Really cool to have another practice management system option in APAC. I think Clio are really well known for their wide integration network. So I think they have over 200 integrations that you can connect. So they have an open API. So very friendly if you want to be able to incorporate other platforms, which I think we will see more and more of law firms starting to use things like a CRM alongside their practice management system. But on Clio specifically, they actually already have a CRM for lawyers. It's called Clio Grow. So it'll be really interesting to see how they grow in Australia and New Zealand and what avenue they go in, because I think right now the big players for the small to mid-sized law firms are definitely Smokeball, Actionstep, Leap, One Law are the ones I'm definitely hearing a lot of.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Clio is definitely going to shake up the market in APAC, so excited to see what happens.
And so to wrap up the conversation on the practice management systems that were there, who do you think was dominating the market?
Definitely Actionstep. A lot of law firms who are really interested in their offerings. I spoke with a lot of practice managers who were looking at transitioning to Actionstep in the next year and actively looking at tools that they can connect with Actionstep to really enhance that experience.
Yeah. And now we can get to the point about AI being slapped on every
Backdrop in
backdrop.
existent, right? Yeah.
Yes. What's your hot take? Is it meant to be there?
I think broadly speaking, AI is really powerful and it can do a lot. I think what I'm seeing personally is a lot of people are being told they need AI without having a clear problem to solve with AI. Not to say AI can't solve problems, but it's really good at solving specific problems. So I think so. As Sophie said, right? Everyone had it on their backdrop. Everyone's talking about time savings, efficiencies. Not everyone incredibly specific about how it works, but a bit excited to see what's out there. I think Smokeball next to us again, we're launching the kind of Archie product, which is super interesting. So excited to see that with a lot of mutual clients with Smokeball. So excited to hear from them how they're finding it. What is your take, Sophie?
I think that it is on all the backdrops, but I think it does work. I think you hear all these lawyers, and the first thing they'll say when they get to a booth is, do you have AI, or how do you use AI in your product? And you hear this again and again at all these conferences. And so it's what you said just then, that products might be looking for a way to build AI without looking for a problem that AI can solve, without it actually adding more complexity, because practice management systems can be complex.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think Nest Legal did a fantastic presentation looking at a very specific workflow they go through. I think it's around like fencing of all things, and the workflow that they take clients through in the software that's involved in that, and how they supplement their human lawyers with AI to allow them to be more productive, but also enhancing their ability to be empathetic with their clients, which I thought was a fantastic and relatively uncommon for people to go into the weeds of exactly how they're using it. I thought that was a fantastic show and presentation, and I think the recordings are available for those.
Super interesting. So that's our wrap up of ALPMA, another great conference, and I hope you enjoyed our 15-minute or so little chat with each other. So William, will we be back next year for ALPMA 2025?
Definitely. I'd love to be there.
Me too. There we go. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks so much.